Welcome viewers to this new series of lectures on Indian prehistory, and as we all know that primarily the reconstruction for prehistoric period is done through archaeological evidence, through archaeological details. This is because we do not have written material of historical reconstruction for prehistoric period. Therefore, it is important for us to make sense of some perspectives with which archaeology is carried out, and also inference is made out of archaeological evidence that we have for the period. So, today's lecture is about Indian history perspectives from archaeology. So, what we shall be trying to do in the two parts of this lecture is, first we will see as to what technically different terms like archaeology, artifacts, etc. mean, and thereafter we will try and see in the next part of the lecture, if possible, to analyze, to understand some of the Indian prehistoric or proto-historic patches or timelines and the details therein, and in what ways can archaeology tell us about different possibilities that could have constituted human life, human behavior, community life, and so forth. So, to begin with, let us try and understand what archaeology actually means to us. Well, archaeology as a discipline, of course, is a very late entrant to the list of disciplines that we all are familiar with. It is not older than 19th century, and it is only around 19th century that archaeology emerges as a discipline. Of course, the interest in antiquarian past or interest in antiquarianism, as we understand, some lure for things which are very pristine, which have been chanced upon, which have come out of some accidental digging and so forth. So, that remains, and people since time immemorial have been fascinated with whatever they have found with respect to great antiquity. So, that is what we understand by antiquarianism, but archaeology is different because it is done with a purpose. It is carried out with the intent of recovering past through the remnants of human behavior or activity, and these remnants, as is obvious, are material in nature, and it is through this, it is through stratifying these materials in chronological terms that we use the coordinate of time, and of course, the spatial context is always there. The geographical coordinate is always there. So, in actual sense of the term, archaeology is about material remains of past primarily, and how we make sense of the times of which a particular material is product of on account of human labor. So, any material that has ever been touched upon in what way or the other by human beings, by human communities for whatever reasons, that can constitute what we understand as artifacts. So, any and everything that we encounter in an archaeological digging as part of the stratigraphy of a particular period is not an artifact, but something that has been touched upon by human labor, something that has been chiseled by human labor or human imagination, something that has been molded or sought to be molded in a particular way. That is what we understand as artifacts. And as you can see on your slide, subject is different from its emergence as a discipline. So, when we speak of a particular subject, of course, that can be there in human past for a longer period of time, but when that subject emerges as a discipline means when at what point of time a particular subject comes to have a grammar of its own, comes to have a list of do's and don'ts of its own, it comes to have its own ways and methods widely accepted by the practitioners of that subject to be followed in order to carry out researches in that particular subject and so forth. So that's when a subject emerges as a discipline. That's something that holds true for history as a subject, because our fascination with past is very antique, but it emerges as a discipline. History emerges as a discipline only around the last quarter of 18th century and 19th century, when a particular way of looking at things, a particular way of cause and effect relationship, a particular way in which we categorize historical facts, etc. happened. So for ancient discipline, for ancient subjects, that is the time when it happened, but for a subject like archaeology, it is a byproduct of 19th century itself. It begins as a discipline itself, and earlier, as I discussed, that it stayed mostly as in the form of antiquarianism, mostly in the form of one's fascination for anything antique, and the usual practice was to pull it out from its context, from its spatial or temporal context, and put it somewhere, either in one's house or at some other public place for public display, and the antiquity of it was talked about, and people were fascinated with it, but it was seldom used as some kind of a source material to reconstruct the past of the period of which it is a part. So archaeology as a discipline begins from its antiquarian past to its transformed form as a rigorous craft in the 19th century, and hence it also comes with an air of what we understand as scientific, what we understand as hard data, what we understand as something very precise, or something which uses precision to good effect. Now, why I am saying all these is because 19th century is also a period which is regarded as the triumphant period of natural sciences. Triumphant period of natural sciences, because by now it has eclipsed, by 19th century, scientific method, scientific way of inquiry, its categorization, its philosophy. It has permeated enough into society. It has pushed other forms of knowledge acquisition and inquiry into some kind of a background, be it faith induced by religion, ethics, or regionality, or other superstitious beliefs or practices and so forth. So they have been relegated into some kind of a background, and what emerges as the mainstream is scientific inquiry. Its ramifications can be seen in different places, in different domains, be it medicine, be it chemistry, be it physical sciences, and even what we understand as social sciences. So you do well to remember that it was only in the 19th century that several other ways of inquiry actually got transformed into separate disciplines, say of sociology, psychology, geology, anthropology, and so forth, and archaeology adds to that list. So emerging in an environment where natural sciences and methods are the triumphant mode of inquiry, it does carry that air of scientificity, that air of not dealing with something abstract and subjective, but very objective truths. It's about material. It's about materials that they are dealing with, and also the fact that these materials actually constitute hard data, and they are not open to the kind of inferences that are made otherwise in a very loose way. So, this assertion about archaeological material or archaeological facts being hard data is somehow embedded in popular parlance. Similarly, it's also exhibited by the practitioners of archaeology that they carry it out with a very precise sense of magnitude, be it time, be it other facets. These scientific, so-called scientific pretense is very much there in the practice of archaeology. But I am being little harsh here by using this term pretense, because in actual sense, when you make some meaning out of archaeological data, you realize that it's not that precise, it's not that objective either. So, in other words, what I am trying to say here is that, quite like other disciplines or quite like other aspects of inquiry, there is fair degree of role that the context plays in archaeological meaningfulness, in archaeological inquiry, in archaeological methods. Maybe that at the time of the beginning of this discipline in 19th century, imbued with the sense of positivism, which told us to rigorously restrict the study of a phenomenon to the phenomenon itself, and it also pushed us into believing that meaning of an object is embedded in the object itself, and it is not through external circumstances outside that object that we should look for its meaningfulness and so forth. Fact of the matter for practitioners of archaeology or historians is that it's extremely important. Context is extremely important to make any fruitful sense of archaeological exploration, of archaeological data. Therefore, to hammer in this point that archaeology is about hard data, whereas other aspects of historical sources are not that hard in its form or content, or they are open to so many interpretations. True, to some extent, yes, it is a material fact that we are dealing with, it is a material object that we are dealing with. To that extent, it is finite, limited, but as I said, that its historical meaningfulness can be extracted only in the context of the surroundings in which a particular artifact has been found, and that is what constitutes the material context of the finding. And therefore, we will see, if time permits in later part of the lecture, that contexts become important the way it is for any other source of historical interpretation, even in interpreting archaeological data. So, the fact that it is a science and it is more about exactitude, it is more about hard data, cannot be argued beyond a point. And as you can see on your slide, to some extent we do agree archaeological materials are quantifiable and measurable, but are not facts which speak for themselves. They by themselves do not announce their purpose of existence. They on themselves do not proclaim as to why they were made and why they exist the way they do. Why they are suspended at a particular moment of time in history, and why they were not carried or assimilated into something else. And that brings us into another I would say understanding about archaeology, that usually it is the garbage of past, it is the material garbage that we generally encounter as archaeological material, as archaeological data in the excavations. Why I say so is because had they been of some value, it could be social value, it could be economic value, it could be religious value or whatever, it's more likely that they would have been transformed or carried across time, across communities in constant usage. But the sheer fact that they lay abandoned by a certain community at a particular point of time, at a particular place, also means that they are discarded objects, and maybe that it was not feasible for communities while leaving that place or while abandoning that place to carry them along, or maybe that over a period of time they were neglected and they lay abandoned, and a mound has been created over it because of no settlement living over there, and so forth. So if they are there, it's because of abandonment, or it's because of their almost being a dustbin, right. So generally it is also said of archaeological material that they are the dustbin of past, and therefore when we undertake to reconstruct the life and times of a period on the basis of archaeological remains, archaeological material, we should be mindful of this, that the actual life and times must have looked many times more magnificent than what they appear as in archaeological records or in archaeological materials, because it is only the dustbin that we are looking at, and the other facets of material life that were of value, that were beautiful, that were considered of value and hence not abandoned, they also must have constituted that life and times, and therefore the reconstruction process of life and times of a particular period should take that into account. So coming back to the issue of how to make some meaning out of a stray archaeological finding, is that we should treat those data, those material data, in a context, and that context is best known in terms of whatever information that we have on account of the historical time that we are dealing with, in terms of say the details offered by vegetation, the soil typology, the precipitation in that area, the other rocks, the other physical formations that are there, the floral and faunal life that could have existed, and we are aware of it through other means, and being aware of all these other coordinates of that particular time in history, if we put that object which we have found as archaeological material in that context, then it starts to speak. It starts to speak in the sense that we are able to elicit some voice out of that otherwise mute and dumb object. So its meaningfulness, that's the significance of the context or the contextual analysis of archaeological finding. However, a caution must also be exercised that the latitude of imagination or romance or drama that we can create out of say a literary piece of evidence, that latitude in the case of archaeological data of course is very limited, because it has to be accounted for. It cannot be wished away as exaggeration or negation of something which could have been present. Material objects are brutally real and it has to be accounted for. It cannot be brushed inside something or put under the carpet, and some other argument could be built in complete negation of the presence of a material substance and so forth. Or even it could even be the absence of a particular material at a particular point of time in history. For example, if we generally believe that Harappan period is devoid of any evidence of use of iron or iron technology, then it's something because that material is not there. That pyrotechnology of iron smelting cannot be presumed safely for Harappans. So it's not safe to presume that Harappans had mastered the pyrotechnology of say attaining 1200 degrees Celsius of temperature or 1400 degrees Celsius of temperature, because other materials that have been found from Harappan stratigraphy all have melting point less than 1000 or 900 degrees Celsius, including copper, faience and so forth. So, the point is that when we deal with archaeology as a source of historical reconstruction, we have to be mindful of these details, and it cannot be stretched into some kind of a drama or romance as we generally tend to do with respect to other literary sources of historical reconstruction. So, in the next part of this lecture, we will try and see what specific archaeological insights are there which can be offered in the context of Indian subcontinent with respect to its pre and proto history. Thank you.